What's up, guys? It's me, KiNGAlpha. How you guys doing? So we got some balance changes coming on the 24th. Obviously, the new season is coming out. Um, I've read through the balance changes. I'm pretty surprised, so I definitely want to see what you guys are going to say down in the comment section below. However, I am going to be coming out with another video after this one as well about the whole new doctrine changes or the new doctrine infusion thing. Really insane um type of project that they have going there. So we shall really dive deep into that one. But anyways, we're going to be talking about the balance changes that are coming out. This is booming text. I just couldn't wait really for the My Game side to release theirs. So, some wording or anything like that can be different than the My Game side. So just keep that in mind. If something looks similar or this or that, just keep that in mind. All right. Anyways, Longsword is going through a massive overhaul for all you Longsword fans. Um, I'm even going to be trying out Longsword a little bit as well, so it's going to be very fun to try it out. Um, you know, I did try it out a bit in the PTR. It does seem very fun, but I didn't get to play it so far. But on the 23rd, in the matches that when we play on the reworked maps and everything, I'm going to be trying out the new reworked Longsword and really giving it a try and stuff. So anyways, let's go into it. Longsword and Shield, we are merging basically Mercy of Heaven and Knightly Vows. So now they're basically one skill or basically one button, but there's just a cooldown in between both. So more or less, you start off with Mercy of Heaven, and then after 10 seconds, you go into Knightly Vows. It switches, but you have to actually proc Knightly Vows again in order to actually then get Mercy of Heaven after the 10 seconds as well. So basically, they share they share cooldowns on the same skill, but it's merging them into one. So anyways, uh Mercy of Heaven effects change. So immediately recovers 10% health and recovers 3 health every second for 10 seconds. Restores the health of allies by 1% for every second for 10 seconds. Gains 15% melee damage reduction for 3 seconds, which 3 seconds, guys, is it's a lot. And then the cooldown is changed obviously to 10 seconds. I think before it was like 20-second cooldown or something. I don't know. I don't really play longsword like that. Anyways, any of these words or anything that I mess up, like in terms of pronunciation, I'm sorry. I woke up an hour ago, so just give me a break. Mercy of Heaven grants piety, so or PD. So increasing all, I can call it piety. Increases all defenses by 50% for 3 seconds. Once piety runs out, the effect turns into unswerving, increasing defenses by 20% for 5 seconds. While active, hitting the enemy with any skill refreshes the unswerving effect. So you can constantly, basically, for within those 5 seconds, get increased defense by 20 percent for 5 seconds. While this is active. So, basically, if you have 20% defense for like 1 second left, you hit the enemy with the skill, you most likely would get this procced yet again. Regardless, after using Mercy of Heaven, it is replaced by Knightly Vows, which is what I was talking about. You basically use Mercy of Heaven, and then there's a cooldown, and then it gets replaced by the Knightly Vows, which then, after you use it, it will be 10 seconds again of you waiting until you can use Mercy of Heaven. So anyways, Knightly Vows effects change. Increases the movement speed of yourself and allies by 10% for 9 seconds. Oh, this is the level 1. I'm going to go off of the level 3. Level 3 increases the movement speed of yourself and allies by 20% for 9 seconds. Uses Knightly Vow, no longer removes concussed effects. So, you just don't, if you get concussed, it just doesn't do that anymore. It doesn't remove that. So if you do get concussed, you will be concussed. Plain and simple. And then again, the cooldown is 10 seconds. But this is new. Grants Spearhead, increasing all armor penetration by 30% for 3 seconds. Once Spearhead runs out, the effect turns into Spirited, increasing armor penetration by 15% for 5 seconds. While active, hitting the enemy with any skill refreshes Spirited. After using Knightly Vows, obviously this again gets replaced by that. It says as we're trading these skills and point resets, you'll receive mastery points based on. Oh, well, that doesn't really matter to me. Anyways, Paladin remade into Crusader Counter. I wonder if they are calling it Crusader Counter. We shall see whether they're just going to keep it as Paladin on the my game side or not. So, yeah. Anyways, the first stage of Paladin, which is the skill, they've also changed the animation of this as well. But basically, it can knock enemies back. So he kind of does like a little bit of a shield bash, and then he does like a forward jump slash. It's really cool animation actually. But as you guys can see here, it does the 100%, 140% of your blunt damage, and then the extra blunt damage there on stage 3. And then second stage, enemies hit take 200 bleed damage every second for 5 seconds. So basically 1,000 bleed damage, which is actually not a small amount of bleed damage. 1,000 is still a lot. And then level 3, it says it deals 116% of your slashing damage plus 1,410% slashing damage. The thing about Crusader Counter now is that it does remove daze and knockdown effects, which is huge. But also you have a 15-second cooldown on it, so it's not that bad. Martial prowess. Hitting an enemy no longer restores 3% health. So they did take the health away from that, but I don't think a lot of people use martial prowess anyways. But they've adjusted the slashing damage to 73%. It was 80%, but also so they basically nerfed this thing a little bit. So they nerfed the overall damage of the skill from 80% to 73%, and then it was doing 1,106 slashing damage, but now it's only doing 889. But the new effect is hitting an enemy reduces their defenses by 15% for 6 seconds and stacks up 2 times. So I'm assuming if you hit them with this, if you stack up 2 times, but it also removes daze and knockdown effects. So again, another skill that they're bringing. They're basically making sure that if anything, longsword, you get on your ass, you can basically get right back up. I think the one class that's gonna really counter longsword is obviously any class that kind of does a throw ability. So basically, when you're thrown, kind of like when Pike ults, that's you getting thrown. When it's fully charged and stuff. So that's the only thing I can see right here that's gonna make longsword have a bad day. Um, Shield bash. The first hit, which I've seen shield bash, is really really nice now. Reduces the enemy's movement speed by 75% for 3 seconds, and then the second hit stuns the enemies, which is huge because shield bash was always used where you just use the skill and you kind of get the first hit off, but then you never get the second hit off really. Whereas in this part, if you actually hit the shield bash correctly or even entwine it with other skills, you can really knock down and keep the hero down, as much as possible, which is really, really nice. Anyways, the second hit stuns the enemies, and then they adjusted the blunt damage. It was 141%, but now it's only 139% of your blunt damage. And then they did increase the overall blunt damage from 1,007 to 1,164. They also did block reduction is increased to 25%. So, obviously hitting that person with the second hit will really, really be devastating for that player. And then it says the cooldown is increased to 12 seconds, was 10 seconds. So obviously with this skill being granted a stun now, it's going up to 2-second cooldown, which is understandable. With Valor, we're just going to go to the third stage. So they adjusted the the first stage, because there's 3 stages to it. So adjusted the slashing damage. It was 113%. Now it's 116% of your slashing damage. And then also increased the damage points by up to like plus 50. So 1,400. Second stage, they increased the slashing damage of that from 113% to 124%. And then they also increased the damage output of 50 points as well. Third stage, they increase the blunt damage, which I believe the third stage of which Valor is the kick. So the kick goes up from 207 to 210, and then basically overall a little bit of a 90-point difference in terms of that. But the cooldown was reduced by 1 second to 15 seconds. Sally Forth. Okay, so this was something that was pretty interesting. Um, and we'll just go over it. So the first stage ignores block effects. Adjusted the slashing damage to 201%, was 158%, but then they did lower the damage that it does of slashing damage to 2436. Then the second stage stuns the enemies. So now they adjusted the blunt damage of that, which is basically the first one is they do like a slash, then they do a hit, which is shield, and then it does the third stage of going down, like in the slam. So so basically they adjust that bit, and then the third stage, which I said is the one that they like kind of like put their sword into the ground, adjusted the piercing damage of that from 263% to 331%, but they did lower the overall piercing damage by 500 there, and the cooldown was adjusted to 45 seconds. Now, I'm gonna say this really quick. I feel low key that Sally Forth can be used a lot more due to the fact of this. Clash of Shields no longer slows enemies for 75%, and damage no longer diminishes when hitting multiple enemies. So the big thing here. Oh, hello. Sorry, my bunny was on a thing. The big thing here is that it no longer slows for 75%. The big thing of Clash of Shields is that, it's a big opener, but it also does do the slow. So it's really interesting to see that they did kind of like nerf Clash of Shields in this way, but then they also did increase the blunt damage. So they increased the blunt damage percent by 7%, and then they increased the blunt damage overall by probably like 90-ish. But yeah, this is like the big thing right here is the fact that it no longer slows 75%, but it says damage no longer diminishes when hitting multiple enemies. So I'm assuming you're doing this overall damage to every person now instead of the more people you hit, the damage is being diminished or like lowered. So yeah. But they also did on the combat dismount, they reduced the armor penetration multiplier. It was 2.06 and they reduced it to 1.77, which probably will make sense due to the fact that, I'm assuming Longsword's going to be doing a lot more damage now. So yeah. It says other improvements. I didn't actually read this. Improve the movement trajectory of all skills so that the multi-strike skills are easier to hit with. Piercing damage is reduced by 12%. However, it now inflicts daze. Maximum block is increased by 12.5%. Slightly increased shield block hitbox, making it easier to protect your legs. Did not know that. But yeah, so Longsword is getting a massive adjustment here, guys. I think it's going to be doing a lot of damage, and I think in the right hands, especially in a lot of players' hands, I feel like you can really go even full strength Longsword here using heavy armor. And, some heroes think that they can really test you. I think it could be really funny to see them get killed by a longsword now in like a 1v1 duel, other than just, oh, I can't kill a longsword because he's just constantly healing. Musket's getting, I assume, a buff. So Liquid Fire's ignition efficiency is increased to 60%. So RIP all those blue units coming up in the tier luck. Deploy caltrops, 2. I'm assuming this is 2s. Okay, 3s damage. Alright, so we're gonna look at 3s damage. I just don't ever like looking at the lower skills, like, the stage 2 of it. Most people by now have level 3s of this stuff. 3's damage over time increased to 250, was 140. Yeah, so Liquid Fire and Deploy Caltrops, again, I think this is how many seasons? It's been like back to back to back to back to back, I think, seasons, ever since like season 7. They've been literally adjusting Liquid Fire and Deploy Caltrops constantly. So Musket's getting a buff in terms of their Liquid Fire and Deploy Caltrops build yet again. So I guess the runes this season are going to be good for Musket because I think they do correlate with that. So yes. Poleaxe is getting a huge buff, by the way, for Weapon Dance, which, by the way, Weapon Dance is also getting a rune this season that I think it reduces damage taken or something like that as well. But now Weapon Dance can knock enemies back and reduces the enemy's damage by 25% and reduces damage taken by 3.5% duration increased to 6 seconds was 5 seconds. So that's pretty huge. And then Beck Corbin's also getting a cooldown reduction of from 22 seconds to 20 seconds. But Weapon Dance for sure, guys, is going to be something you're going to see a lot of poleaxes use this season. Probably you're going to see a lot of pushback, Weapon Dance, and Beck Corbin if you wanted to use it for units and stuff. Or instead of Beck Corbin, they're probably going to use the good old Bill Hook. So interesting stuff there for Poleaxe and everything. Now, Shortbow. Shortbow's getting a buff as well, by the way. Wrath of Archimedes' new effect. Damage when being hit by multiple Wrath of Archimedes is increased by 5%. So they're really trying to get you to use Wrath of Archimedes a lot more instead of using Angry Hornets. But again, let's continue. So the stunning shot, by the way, stunning shot 2 and 3 now slow for 50% for 3 seconds after the concuss effect runs out, which is actually pretty huge because if you get stunned by Shortbow, you are kind of basically stuck a lot of the times unless you have a skill to get out. And then now you're also getting slowed for 50% for 3 seconds, and those 3 seconds are huge for a Shortbow, especially if you're trying to run away or you're trying to engage with the Shortbow hero. So Shortbow is getting a nice little buff there. And then also now steel tipped arrows level 3 effect greatly reduces block, which is really, really huge for Shortbow. Now, my boys, getting into, and I'm sorry this is such a long patch notes, but getting into Nodachi here. Ooh, Nodachi. Ooh, Nodachi love is out in the air, boys. Anyways, um, maximum damage decay from hitting multiple enemies increased to 25%, was 20%. Samurai's March adjusted the movement trajectory to make it easier to hit enemies. Cooldown was reduced to 10 seconds, was 11 seconds, so 11-second cooldown. And it says that the second attack now knocks down heroes, which is pretty interesting. So, yeah. In terms of Monster's Blade, I don't know the difference of the points. So it says they increased the critical value was increased by 60%, but this was 225. So I don't know if this was indirectly a nerf or not, but yeah. And then look at this, guys. Fearless Steadfast crowd control immunity during Blood Craze was now increased to 2.5 seconds, and it was 2 seconds. So now you have zero point 0.5 extra seconds of immunity on Fearless Steadfast during Blood Craze, which is, when you get all your stacks and stuff. And also, Tiger's Claw damage increased during Blood Craze was increased by 20 to 25%, and it was 20%. So Nodachi is getting a nice little buff here as well. I'm glad. And I'm glad that they keep buffing the skills that not a lot of people use because eventually those skills can get used and everything. Short sword and shield. I didn't fully read this here, so this is going to be my first time reading this. It says level 3 of shield charge increases defenses by 50%. Previously reduced damage taken by 90%. Okay. Adjusted the hitbox of the shield charge second shield bash to make it easier to hit enemies. Okay. And they adjusted the blunt damage from, so they basically gave short sword a little bit of a damage buff. And then shield thump concusses if both enemies hit. I don't know what shield thump is, so anybody in the comments when you see this, let me know. Maul, Uko's Doom is now remade into Rock Slide Smash. Interesting name. The damage is being heavily reduced in terms of the percent of your blunt damage, so 140 to now 90%. But the overall damage of blunt damage goes from 500 to 1,142. But they gave Uko's Doom a new effect. Enemies hit are affected by Armor Crush, reducing their defenses by 12% for 6 seconds. Fuck me, dude. Maul. Maul is still going to be top tier this season for sure. Again. But anyways, well, except you never know with the new class. Regardless. Now, the new units, the units adjustments. This was pretty interesting, by the way. The base movement speed of the Sicilian militia are going up by 0.3, and the base ammo the base ammo for the Civilian Militia are going up from 33 to 48. So this is huge. This is the huge bit right here for Civilian Militia. You're going to be able to get a lot more throws off. But now this as well. Explosion damage from canisters reduces the enemy's defenses by 6% for 8 seconds. This is insane. Because if you think about it, you can use the Killian during purple era as well, even gold era. And they really, even though it seems like they're not doing much, they're doing a lot right now. And then the crazy fact of them now getting the fact that they reduced the enemy's defenses by 6% for 8 seconds. 8 seconds is huge, and it doesn't state whether this will constantly be a constant thing. So if you're, consistently chucking this thing, after the 8 seconds are done, are they going to immediately, if they're still on fire by the explosion, canisters or whatever, are they going to get that stack of enemy defenses being reduced again and stuff? So this is huge for Killing Militia. And my boy Condos might come back to fight Perfection Guards. We'll see, because it says now with Condos, once Shield Rush, which is the number 2, which is Shield Bash, is done, they are, I'm assuming Shield Rush, ooh, wait, I could be wrong here. I believe Shield Rush is the 2 ability, which is the shock attack, or the shock ability. But Shield Rush could also mean that they're doing charge, which I really doubt, but we'll see. Once Shield Rush ends, they gain shock attack for 4 seconds and attack the enemy once more. They improve the AI of shock attack, making the unit more likely to charge enemies. So I'm assuming they're getting a shock attack and then another shock attack. I don't know, but that's again wording on booming tech side, so I don't know. Maybe I don't know that the shield that the charge is called Shield Rush. Maybe I'm just being stupid. I'm sorry. And also Squires using Shield Rush. Okay, so maybe Shield Rush is called charge. Um, so okay, so once you charge with condos, they gain a shock attack for 4 seconds and attack the enemies once more. And then you can do shock attack, I'm assuming, and improve the AI of shock attack, making it more likely to charge the enemies. And then it says with Squires using Shield Rush increases all defenses by 50% and all damage by 20% for 10 seconds. So Squires on my list are definitely going to go up, guys. So it's going to be interesting stuff here. Let me know what you guys think here. A shit ton of changes. I'm sorry for such a long video, but so many changes to heroes, and then obviously the minimal changes to the blue units, and then we'll probably see in the next patch some changes, or the patch in maybe 2 weeks, of some big changes coming to like purple units and everything. I think condos, squires, and Zakillion are going to be used a lot during the blue era now. Especially squires, that's huge versus blue units. So let me know what you guys think. I'm pretty excited. I think this season's changes are looking really good, plus the new weapons coming out and everything. So got some huge changes coming this week, but it's just as long as the player base is there, we'll see. But anyways, guys, peace out. Have a great one. And again, let me know what you guys think of these changes. All right, peace, peace, peace.